Folks, I'm one proud Bavarian and I am here to tell you that today is a good day to be a fan of Crusader Kings 3. I have the pleasure of dissecting and showcasing the mod Ethnicities and Portraits Expanded. Going forward, I will be referring to this mod as EPE. When this video goes live, the mod will have already been out for a couple of hours, so make sure to go and play it right after learning everything that you need to know about it. Trust me, it is totally worth it. Now, what does the mod actually do? Let's start off with the topic of ethnicities. In the vanilla game, you will find yourself seeing a large variety of regions sharing a general look within their characters. The world of Crusader Kings 3 is wide and offers many different cultures to play within, but that also means that many of them end up looking, well, basically the same. We can see the full list of ethnicity templates in the vanilla game right here. Now, I do want to be fair to the vanilla game. All of these templates follow basic parameters that then get remixed, making it so that indeed everybody always looks somewhat different, even if they belong to the same ethnicity category. In practice, what this means is that no two characters of one ethnicity will ever truly look alike. However, what this also means, since there is such a limited amount of ethnicities in the base game, is that Andalusians, as they use the same basic template, will look very similar to Tunisians, Egyptians and Bedouins, not to say the same. At the same time, the Pechenegs will use the exact same ethnicity template as the Mongolians and the Tibetans. Of course, on a basic level, this is really only a visual issue, but I believe that it will become quickly apparent just how restrictive this is if we take a look at what EPE has to offer. As you can see here, there are all of a sudden basically infinite templates. Not only are there many more ethnicities that create a different look for each one of them, but those different ethnicities also have several templates, making it so that even within an ethnicity there are different templates that utilize different base values and with that produce differences within one group. The mod basically alters how the visual character generation works from the ground up, massively expanding on variety, and the result is a much richer world on this level already. You can see the differences as they run through in the background. Now, of course, the changes of the mod are subtle, as EPE does not look to reinvent the wheel, but rather achieve a more realistic look for all characters involved. Speaking of realistic, besides adding various ethnicity templates, EPE also seeks to give faces a feeling that is generally more realistic. Now, please do not get me wrong here. I think CK3's comic-like style is endearing and quite interesting, but the faces of EPE do seem a bit more real to me as their proportions have been altered in a way that allows for a more realistic face shape. All of this is also reflected in a rather subtle way throughout the world. Faces are generally more realistic, but most importantly, the variety has increased massively. In the background, you can now see several characters in vanilla and with the mod. The difference here is of course also in their clothes, but let's get to that in a second. For the moment, let's just appreciate the subtle differences that can be found throughout the world to a much larger degree than it is possible in the vanilla game. What impresses me primarily here is that despite choosing a different fundamental character style for faces, none of the faces EPE produces and generates automatically actually feels out of place. In my opinion, it all still very much fits into Crusader Kings 3's art style and is complemented by it. Now, with ethnicities out of the way, let's take a look at the portraits, or more accurately, at everything related to clothing. Because, well, there is a lot of it. It is difficult to even find a starting point with all of this, but let's attempt it by jumping into clothing. When using this mod, I highly advise using the full screen barbershop by Agamede, as it will make navigating any visuals much easier. The team made great strides to include symbols that enable you to recognize which cultural area clothing generally belongs to. Not just that, the color of a symbol also shows what class of people the clothes are adequate for, as you can see right here with the French clothing. What will become apparent rather quickly is that when it comes to the general clothes people wear, the general form can repeat sometimes, but the patterns and material are what makes them highly unique. For example, here you can see the same basic model for 3 different Iranian classes. Nonetheless, the status of wealth becomes very obvious, giving characters a much wider range to express their social status than ever before. The difference in fabric quality and the richness in utilized colors really establishes the divide between the commoners and a king. However, the greatest of news here is that all of the clothing pieces are unable to be shown in the game organically. For example, non-Muslim Iranian clothing will be shown on, you guessed it, non-Muslim Iranian folks. High medieval clothing, on the other hand, will pop up only once the high medieval era has been reached. This means that the absolute variety we can find in the barbershop is not limited to the player at all, but rather is going to make the world richer naturally by a massive degree. Now, regular clothes are of course not where EPE stops. They also have hairstyles and, possibly most importantly, a huge variety of headwear. You might think that I am exaggerating here when I'm calling it a huge variety, but why don't you see for yourself? Almost every single cultural group has unique headwear that will truly change how you perceive the world. Gone are the days of folks looking the same from Iberia to Baghdad while wearing the same clothes. No longer will Pechenegs wear the same outfit as the Han Chinese rulers of Gulji. There are many headpieces that look absolutely gorgeous, such as the Khorasan helmet or one of the many Imperial Zoroastrian crown variations. Frankly, I am absolutely in love, especially with those. The early Iranian crown, for example, also is truly beautiful, worthy of a ruler of your standing. There are many additional armor headpieces such as full metal helmets or high West Phrygian round helms, and yes, before you ask, these helmets are historically appropriate. They really were their toll. Why? Honestly, I don't know. They were probably given to people with huge brains to keep them safe. A region that I personally absolutely fell in love with is the Slavic region. Slavs in the vanilla game are dressed primarily in mute colors as they mostly wear northern clothing, but those days are now gone. The rich patterns of the Slavs as well as some unique clothes are now present in the game and change how you will perceive their region compared to, for example, the Baltic or the Finno-Ugric regions. There are far too many assets within this mod to show them all to you, but I guarantee you that you will see the added depth throughout the world as you play the mod itself. Now, with all of these utterly gorgeous assets out of the way, there are only 3 things that I want to mention. Number 1, always remember, the mod is of course work in progress. It is truly amazing, but sometimes you might have something that doesn't work right. If so, make sure to join the dev Discord and tell them about it. Number 2, the mod is of course not achievement compatible. Sadly, basically no CK3 mod is. And then there is number 3, something that makes me personally extraordinarily happy. When I started to test the mod, I was wondering whether we would now have to choose between EPE and the amazing community flavor pack. And the answer is no, we don't have to choose. The EPE team worked hard on their assets and of course understands just how beloved the flavor pack is, and so they created a compatibility patch. You do not have to choose between the mods, and the assets do not fight with one another. In the load order, simply load in the flavor pack first, then EPE, and then the compatibility patch. All 3 will be linked in the description, for together they will grant you the single most perfect roleplay and immersion experience available in all of Crusader Kings 3. And that is all about the mod itself, but I do want to mention that EPE will be a part of both of my immersion mod lists. If you're not yet aware of it, I maintain 2 lists just for immersion purposes in CK3. One mod list that originally was made just for a small number of other content creators will exclusively alter visuals rather than change any gameplay mechanics. EPE will further enhance the experience that this list enables, as again, the list focuses only on visuals. If you're a bit more adventurous, I implore you to check out the Ultimate Immersion mod list instead. UIM is the most subscribed mod list on the entire CK3 workshop and contains various gameplay altering mods on top of the visual mods of the lightweight list. EPE will of course also be a part of this list to enhance your experience further. Last but not least, I also want to mention that EPE is a part of a combined mod project called Community Mods for Historicity. While a number of mods of this package are not yet released, it can't hurt keeping track of it, as they desire to be somewhat similar to HIP for CK2, and if you know HIP, then you know that that is quality. The link to the Discord of the Community Mods for Historicity is of course also in the description. And with this, we have reached the end of the video. If you want to talk with the EPE modders, make sure to join their Discord. The work is absolutely outstanding, and you most certainly do not want to miss out on it. As always, I would like to thank the members of the channel that are making videos such as this one possible, namely the Barons, the Counts, and the Dukes. Thank you all for your support. For the moment, later, Alligator.